Go look in your fridge. If you've got a lemon in there, look closely. There's a decent chance it's a Meyer lemon. Thin skin, a little orange colored, sweeter than a normal lemon. It's named after a man, a real guy, Frank Meyer. And Frank Meyer had one of the strangest jobs in American history. His job title was Agricultural Explorer. He worked for the U.S. government, and his entire job was to walk across Asia and mail plants home. That's it. He'd find something useful growing in a field, dig it up, and ship it back to America. He was incredibly good at it. Over 13 years, he sent home thousands of plants, soybeans, pistachios, and one little lemon he found growing in a backyard near Beijing around 1908. He shipped 2,000 of them home. That's your lemon, named after a guy who found it on the other side of the world. But here's the part that sticks with you. In 1918, Frank Meyer got on a boat on the Yangtze River in China. He went to his cabin one night, and he was never seen alive again. A few days later, a sailor found his body floating in the river. Did he fall? Did he jump? Did somebody push him? Over 100 years later, nobody knows. And honestly, that mystery isn't even the interesting part. The interesting part is what the government sent Frank Meyer to China to find, because it wasn't a lemon. It was a killer. But let's not skip ahead. Let's back up. Picture the eastern United States, 150 years ago. The forests from Maine down to Georgia, and imagine one tree everywhere you look. The American chestnut. It was the king of the forest. Huge. Some of them 100 feet tall, with trunks so wide, a few people couldn't link arms around them. And there were a lot of them. In the Appalachian Mountains, about 1 in every 4 big trees was a chestnut. 1 in 4. Add it up, and you get something like 3 to 4 billion of them. That's billion with a B. And this tree did everything. Its wood was straight and light and didn't rot, so people built everything out of it. Houses, barns, fences, telephone poles, railroad ties, even the cradle you were born in and the coffin you were buried in. People used to say the American chestnut held you, cradle to grave. And every fall, it rained food. Chestnuts, tons of them, free on the ground. Mountain families fattened their pigs on them. They ate them, sold them, hauled them to town by the wagon load at Christmas. The whole forest economy ran on this one tree. And then, in 1904, a man at the New York Zoo noticed something wrong. The chestnut trees were dying. Their bark was splitting open. Orange spots, branches going bare at the top. It was a fungus. A tiny thing you'd need a microscope to really see. It got into a crack in the bark, and it choked the tree to death from the inside, like a noose tightening. And it spread fast, on the wind, on birds, on people's boots, 20, 50 miles a year. Now, where did it come from? This is where Frank Meyer comes back in. The government needed someone who knew the forests of Asia, so they sent their explorer. They sent Meyer to hunt down where this thing started, and he found the answer. The fungus came from Asia. It had hitched a ride to America years earlier on imported Asian chestnut trees. Here's the twist that makes the whole thing. The Asian trees were carrying the disease, but the Asian trees didn't die from it. They'd lived with this fungus for thousands of years, so they'd learned to shrug it off. The American chestnut had never seen it before. It had no defense at all. So somebody trying to do something nice brought in a pretty Asian tree, and the pretty tree was quietly carrying the one thing that could wipe out its American cousin. And it did. Within about 50 years, it was basically over. 3 to 4 billion trees, the king of the forest, functionally gone inside a single human lifetime. There are people who were born into a world full of giant chestnuts and died in a world without almost any. Now here's where you'd expect me to tell you this broke America. And here's where I have to be straight with you. It didn't. Not the whole country. You'll hear people say the chestnut blight killed off the passenger pigeon or kicked off some giant national building boom. That's not true. The pigeon was hunted to death by people. The chestnut was only one of its foods. And America had way too much timber for one tree to swing the whole economy. But zoom in on the mountains, and it's a different story. Because in Appalachia, that tree wasn't just a tree. It was the safety net. It was free food, free building wood, and cash in your pocket every autumn. When it died, that whole way of living off the forest on your own started to slip away. And right as it slipped, something else was booming. Coal. The historian Donald Davis put it carefully, and I'll put it the same way. The dying chestnut didn't cause the coal mines, but it gave people a shove. When the forest stopped feeding you, the mine was hiring. By 1920, the Appalachian coalfields had something like 11,000 mines. There was even a strange, sad business built on the dead trees. The wood was so rot-proof, the dead trunks stood for decades. Perfectly good, so loggers harvested the corpses. Wormy chestnut, they called it. Those antique floors, full of little holes and dark streaks, that's furniture made from a forest's ghost. But the biggest ripple wasn't about wood at all. It was about the law. Remember Frank Meyer's job, walking across the world mailing plants home? That whole idea, America just helping itself to the planet's plants, had a powerful enemy, a government scientist named Charles Marlatt. Marlatt had been warning for years that if you let foreign plants pour in unchecked, sooner or later, one of them brings a plague. And he was ruthless about it. Here's how ruthless. Right around this time, Japan sent the United States a gift. About 2,000 cherry trees to plant along the water in Washington, D.C., a token of friendship between two nations. Marlatt's inspectors looked at them and found bugs, foreign insects, disease in the roots, and Marlatt's answer was simple: burn them. So in January 1910, on the grounds of the Washington Monument, America set fire to a gift of Japanese cherry trees, every last one. Now you know the cherry blossoms in Washington, the pink clouds along the water every spring. 1 million people travel to see them. They might be the most photographed trees in the country. Those are the second batch. Japan quietly sent about 3,000 more, cleaned and inspected, and those are the ones that bloom today. The trees everyone loves are the do-over. That was Marlatt, standing at the door, deciding what got in. And then the chestnuts started dying. And Marlatt basically got to say, "I told you so." The dead chestnut handed him his argument, and in 1912, Congress passed the Plant Quarantine Act. For the first time, the U.S. government could inspect what plants came into the country and slam the door on the ones it didn't like. Now, to be fair, the chestnut wasn't the only reason. There were other pests scaring people, and most states already had little laws of their own. The chestnut was a big push, but not the only one. But the law was the seed of something huge. It grew into the modern system that guards every border on Earth. The reason you can't just walk a plant or a piece of fruit through an airport today, that whole apparatus traces back to this moment. And here's the loop. The beautiful, hopeful idea of importing the world's plants. That idea brought in the disease that killed America's greatest tree. And that disease then powered the law that shut the whole open import dream down. The dream let the killer in, and the killing ended the dream. But the chestnut isn't quite finished, and this is the part I love. The roots. A lot of the old stumps are still alive in the ground. Every so often, they send up a hopeful little sprout. It grows a few years, the blight finds it, and it dies back. Then it tries again. For over 100 years, the forest has refused to fully let go. So, can we bring it back? People are trying. And here's the beautiful part. The most promising way to save the American chestnut is to borrow strength from the Chinese chestnut, the cousin. The same kind of tree whose relatives carried the blight in the first place. So the plan is to take the resistance from the tree that brought the disease and breed it into the tree the disease destroyed. The villain hands over the cure. But I have to be honest with you, because that's the whole point of this channel. We are not there yet. As of right now, there is no fixed, finished American chestnut growing wild in the woods. The most famous high-tech attempt actually fell apart a couple of years ago. We're close-ish. We're not back. So, let me leave you where we started, in the kitchen. You know the song, Chestnuts Roasting on an Open Fire? That's Nat King Cole's voice, the coziest sound of an American Christmas. Here's the thing. Nat King Cole didn't write it. Two songwriters did, Mel Torme and Bob Wells, in 1945, and they wrote it in July, in the middle of a brutal heat wave trying to think cool. The coziest winter song in America got scribbled down by two guys sweating through a summer afternoon. And there's a second catch. By 1945, the American chestnut was already a ghost, so the most American holiday image we have was written in the wrong season about a tree that was already gone. So where do the chestnuts you roast today actually come from? Italy? China? Korea? We ship them in. About $20 million worth a year. So think about what crossed that ocean. 3 trees from the same part of the world, in the same handful of years. One we welcomed, and it's sitting in your fridge. One we set on fire, and then fell in love with, and now 1 million people photograph it every spring. And one we never invited at all. The killer that rode in on the chestnut's cousin and erased the king of our forests. Same ocean, same few years, 3 completely different endings. We opened on the one we gained, a little lemon. And we close on the one we lost, a tree that built a country, erased by something too small to see, riding in on a stranger. The dominoes are always falling. You just never see the first one tip.